Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to have a wonderful panel who will be with me on stage just now. So I'll call you up in a second. Just before I do that, I'm just going to give you a bit of background on why we're having this session. So we've heard a lot about the problems that we have in the world. We talk about climate, we talk about biodiversity, pollution is a huge issue, just transition, human rights. We know that there are lots of problems we need to fix, and all of you in this room have a role in doing that. Banks are incredibly important in moving the needle on these important issues because banks have collectively and individually a huge amount of sway on the clients that you work with. By integrating sustainability and the sustainable development goals into your financing decisions, you can change what the real economy is like. You have very valuable relationships with your clients and customers, and through those you can move the needle. So all this to say that banks can accelerate the impact, the positive impact on the planet by pushing the money into the right corners of the economy. In that context, the PRB was launched in 2019 as a result of a collaboration between the UN and the global banking sector. So we had a core group of 30 banks who co-developed the framework. And it's really, the idea is to imagine not a future, but a present where bank strategies and practice aligns with the vision society has set out for itself in the Sustainable Development Goals, in the Paris Agreement, and more recently as well in the Global Biodiversity Framework. So over 320 banks have joined since 2019, and part of that membership are the African banks represented today. It's really great to see you in this room because you play a really important role in that. Africa is, as we've heard multiple times today already, lots of growth happening in Africa. So why repeat the mistakes that were made in other countries, and why not just leverage on those, or leverage the learnings that have been painfully made elsewhere, and take that as a stepping stone and really make that stride forward and think about sustainability in everything that is banking. More than 80% of the principal signatories have identified climate mitigation as their impact area. This is interesting in the African context because that might not be as relevant for you. We've just had the panel on climate adaptation, so that's something to think about. But we are seeing quite a lot of banks working on climate mitigation and making lots of progress on that because it's so tangible. But I'm really interested to hear from our panelists today about the social aspects and looking beyond climate mitigation. And I'm also really excited to hear from your views about how the PRB is being implemented in the region, and how you think the trends that you're seeing will develop over time, what expectations you have for the banking sector going forward, and how we can all work together to work towards a desirable future that really addresses the social and environmental needs that we have. So without further ado, I would like to call on our panelists, and I'll ask Tosin Mfon, who's the head of external relations and sustainability at the Bank of Industry, to join me on stage. Then Olamide Oladele, corporate sustainability and responsibility practitioner at Wema Bank. Boitumelo Sethlatswe, head of societal impact, group corporate citizenship at Standard Bank. And of course, online, we've got Omobolanle Victor-Laniyan, head of group sustainability at Access Bank, joining us. Welcome. We are missing one microphone. maybe I'll start with the second question first, then seeing as we're still sorting out some technical issues. So maybe I'll ask Olamide first. You've identified financial health and inclusion and gender empowerment as a significant impact area for your bank. Could you maybe share your perspectives on those issues and how you see them affecting your bank's strategies, and how you really go about identifying vulnerable customers and how you're planning on achieving impact for those?
Thank you, Alice. Is this okay? Okay. Thank you, Alice. Like you said, financial inclusion and health and women empowerment are areas that we identified as our impact area. And for us, financial inclusion and health means that individuals and businesses have access to financial services that are useful, affordable, and that meet their needs. While women empowerment is, ability for women to participate in decision making, have access to knowledge and financial services that can enable them to thrive, So looking at it in the Nigerian context, Nigeria has a population of about 200 million. Out of this population, a large percentage of the population, are subject to abject poverty. There's a large, huge unemployment rate. And so we have decided to select these impact areas as we believe that those are our areas of strength. We're strong in digital, we're strong in technology. And so what can we do to lift people out of the poverty line, improve people's lives, and drive sustainable and inclusive growth? Also, the Nigerian government is making efforts to improve the lives of people through policy reforms, investment, diversification, and all that. And earlier in the day, the SEC director mentioned that Nigeria is governed by the Nigerian banking sector is governed by the Nigerian Sustainable Principles. And so women's economic empowerment and financial inclusion are two major principles that are being considered. And so as a bank, what then can we do to make impact on these two areas? Because really we do not exist in isolation of our community, so to speak. And so if you're offering banking services that is not useful, is not affordable, and people don't have access, then what really are we doing in that regard? So we identify the vulnerable people by the access to social amenities, basic things. Do they have access to health? Do they have access to insurance? Do they have access to finance? We identify them by the level of income, the low income earners and, the vulnerable people. So we identify them as such. And then we create tailor-made products and services to serve those segments that we identify. And we measure impact based on indicators, that we put aside. So of these people, how many have access to, from the products and services that we have created, how many of them then have access to relevant financial services? How many of them have access to sound financial coaching, because we believe that financial literacy is really an important tool to achieve financial inclusion, and not just onboarding people on platforms. Because, at the beginning, it was thought that financial inclusion is onboarding people on your platform. But what else do they, have access to really improve their lives and bring them out of poverty? Also, the third one is improving access to entrepreneurial training, capacity building sessions, vocational and skills acquisition. These are the things that we believe that in the long run will improve the lots of people, reduce the poverty rate, create employment, and also the inclusive and sustainable growth that we are trying to drive. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's great to hear that you're taking such concrete steps and really looking at individual customers to drive that change, because that's ultimately where it needs to come from. It's not at making a high-level commitment, but it's really ensuring that customers are onboarded on that. then maybe I'll move over to you, Boitumelo, and ask you about your commitment. And of course, Standard Bank has been on the banking board and very active in co-developing the principles. You also launched the first sustainability-linked bond in Africa. Can you share with us a little bit what the most important medium to long-term social and environmental issues that you were considering when formulating the strategy were, and how the PRB helped you in doing this?
Sure. Thank you, Alison. We're really very happy to be here and to also be one of the sponsors of the event. I think as having been part of this journey for so long, it's really great to see how the PRB network has grown so much. I think for us, it's been one of those things that sustainability is baked into our strategy. And I think that's why it was so easy for us, and I say easy, let me rather say it seemed quite a good fit for us to get involved with the principles and to go along this journey. I think for us, we operate in 20 African countries. That presents in itself a lot of challenges. It also presents itself with a lot of opportunities, and I think that's how we've always viewed it. We always speak about Africa as our home, we drive her growth, and ultimately the bank wants to ensure that we drive inclusive and sustainable growth. And this is one of the strategic priorities, and it's something that's guided how we approach sustainability across the group. I think when we look at it and when we define this for ourselves, we really try to think about it very much from how do we make a positive impact and how do we ensure that this having best practice risk management is at the foundation. It's the core, it's the license to do the business to be able to then make the positive impact. So I think it was actually quite timeless. About 5 years ago, when we did our strategy refresh, we really looked at how we want to understand or describe how we drive value in a much more expanded way. So we adopted 6 value drivers, of which one of them specifically focuses on the positive impact we want to have on society, on the environment, and on the economies that we operate in. And I think that's really helped shape how we view this across the group. It's really started to help business also align. And further to that, we then drilled down. I think what we have seen is, if you look on the continent, the challenges and opportunities are similar across the different countries we operate in. And so we then got to this position to say, if we say we want to make a positive impact, which areas are we going to do this in? And very much like my colleague here, one of the first impact areas was really around financial inclusion. We believe that in order for Africa to grow, we need to be including particularly women, the youth, ensuring they have products that are accessible, that help them to save, to invest, to grow. We also have jobs and enterprises. I think we can't, without that, we're really not seeing us moving the needle on the continent. We've also identified infrastructure, climate change, Africa trade and investment. I think you'd be aware sort of with our partnership with ICBC, we really try to create this linkage to the countries that we operate into, external markets, and also looking at accessible health and education. And so these are the areas that we looked at. And I think how the PRB has been really helpful is particularly from a peer learning perspective. I think that often when we do this work as people who work in sustainability and also have to try and align and get the business to move and shift, it's good to get that peer learning opportunity to learn from others. And I think particularly what's been helpful is getting guides and frameworks, a framework that helps us to really align our strategy, but also gives us guidance in terms of how do we set targets. Because I think what we say in the bank is what's important gets measured. So if it's not getting measured, then probably it's not important. And so one of the things that we are really, which is an important priority for us, is really seeing how we measure the impact that we're having. And the area that has taken a lot of focus, and rightfully so given the material risk, is around climate change. And so in the last year and a half, we've published our climate policy, and I think it's been a great learning journey, and we've also used much of the resources that have come from PRB.
Awesome, and yeah, the peer learning is definitely something that's a cornerstone of the PRB commitment, because yeah, as you say, there are lots of banks experiencing similar challenges across the continent, across the world. So finding solutions together is one of the best ways of tackling the challenges that we face. And maybe at this point, I'll move to Omobolanle, who's joining us from online. In your strategy, you speak about going beyond banking to thinking about sustainability. Could you maybe go into a bit more detail what you mean by that when you consider global and local challenges? What is the real economy transition that's needed as you see it? And how are you planning on addressing that?
Thank you very much. And I'd like to say congratulations to all of us for this regional roundtable in Africa. I think it's always good to have these sessions and to discuss and learn from one another. So just going straight to your question, I'll start by saying that at Access Bank we believe that our role as a financial institution first of all extends beyond traditional banking services. So for us, the concept of more than banking or beyond banking ideally signifies a transformative shift, right, in the financial industry. So it represents for us a holistic approach to financial services that extends beyond traditional banking functions. So we know that by providing comprehensive financial solutions, personalized customer experiences, technological innovation, financial inclusion and education, and also community engagement and enrichment. You know, we know that we strive to meet the diverse needs of our customers in a rapidly evolving financial landscape. Now, for us, embracing this philosophy not only enhances our customers' experiences, but also enables individuals, right, that bank with us to achieve their financial goals whilst building a secure and sustainable future. You're right, there are many local and global challenges. I mean, there's limited financial resources, there are issues when we talk about regulatory and policy frameworks, infrastructure gaps, environmental and climate risk issues, lack of access to reliable data, skills and expertise, changing business models, evolving customer expectations, a wide range of challenges. But for us at Access, you know, going beyond banking is also a new era for us, for our employees, for our customers, and for our communities. So our commitment to sustainability that embraces this concept of modern banking aims to create, you know, a positive impact across board. And this multifaceted strategy, embracing it helps us to, you know, strive to empower our stakeholders and contribute to a more sustainable and equitable future. So when we look at sustainability in terms of the workplace, we've termed it sustainable operations, right? Beyond banking then means that our employees play a vital role in driving sustainability. We foster an inclusive work environment that values diversity, promotes equal opportunities, provides capacity building and development opportunities for them to enhance their sustainability knowledge and skills, the Sustainability Champions Network, and our agenda to be carbon neutral in our operations by 2035. If we move to the marketplace, which we've termed sustainable development finance, then beyond banking means that we ensure that we drive sustainable development through responsible finance. So integrating our ESG principles into our decision-making processes, working closely with our customers and our partners, you know, to contribute to the creation of a more sustainable marketplace, embracing our ESG risk management processes, our customized toolkits, providing adequate resources, financial and human, you know, within the bank to enable us to partner with our clients, our consultants, the NGOs we work with, and other stakeholders, you know, to develop and implement, you know, sustainable finance. And of course, partnering with development finance institutions, you know, to fund a minimum of 10 million new MSMEs and increase access for 1 million low-income individuals without increasing our non-performing loan ratio, and also reducing our finance emissions by about 30% over the next 5 years. With respect to the community, in terms of investment, we're saying, look, it means enriching our communities, right? Because at the core of our sustainability strategy is engaging and enriching our communities. So we aim to build a strong community of staff, of businesses, of customers, working to make positive impact in the community. So driven by innovation, we continue to try to pioneer new and better ways to improve the communities from where we take. So by actively participating in community improvement initiatives, we're able to form strong connections with communities, fostering a sense of shared responsibility and making a lasting positive impact. So for instance, over the next 5 years, we also plan to reach 100 million individuals in Africa through our interventions in education, entrepreneurship, health, and environment. Now, the real economic transition that is needed involves, of course, which is the process of some of the things that we've done, clearly setting our objectives and priorities, bank-wide understanding of various activities required for decision making, the policies, the processes, and the systems that have been put in place, a deliberate approach at developing and releasing, launching and various sustainability products and services, engagement with stakeholders along the supply chain, the government, the regulators, even the customers, right? Clear performance management systems with set metrics and targets, skills development, embedding, continuous embedding of sustainability into our culture, and oversight by the board of directors. And all of this leads to the various activities, such as when you look at decarbonization, which is basically about transition to low carbon and carbon neutral practices. So not just with respect to operations, but also with respect to the products and services that we're providing to customers and the support we're giving them, and also to the kinds of interventions we're doing in communities. So looking at how are these things cross-cutting across these three major strategic aspects of our sustainability performance. So looking to reduce greenhouse gas emission through renewable energy adoption, energy efficiency improvements, also things around responsible consumption and production, encouraging that, minimizing waste generation, adopting circular economy approaches such as recycling, product life cycle management. Then, of course, and very importantly, education and awareness. So promoting sustainability education and awareness amongst businesses, amongst consumers, and the general public is very vital for driving, the rural economy transition. So there are some others like social and inclusive economy, responsible supply chain, policy and regulation, digital transformation. So are we engaging with our customers? Very many ways, through newsletters, customer calls, various workshops, webinars, conferences, other capacity building sessions, and then of course the deliberate development and promotion of green products and services, which is why we issued, the first climate bond initiative certified green bond in Africa in 2019 for $1 million. And thereafter, we issued the $50 million notes. And, now we also have, various green products and services, including now on the social side, things like products on affordable housing, healthcare financing, amongst a wide range of others. And we know that by providing, these products and services, we're also encouraging our customers to invest in and support sustainable businesses and products. Thank you.
Thank you for the very detailed explanation, especially of how you engage with your customers. I think that's really, really interesting, and also great to hear about the holistic approach. And I think that's something we're seeing echoed throughout the panel, how important it is to look beyond just single impact areas, but actually to engage with the broader context holistically. So I think at this point, I'll turn to you, Tosin, and as one of the very few development finance institutions in the principles, what impact areas are you focusing on, and how are you planning on implementing this, especially as a development finance institution? What are the steps you're taking there?
Thank you, Alice. Is this working? Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you for that question. And yes, Bank of Industry is one of the few DFIs of the principles. We're actually DFI to sign on. Industry, by virtue of what we do, we have been sustainable. We provide low loans to scalable impact and opportunities to and alleviate poverty in Nigeria. So we're heavily involved in social inclusion by virtue of our mission and vision. On signing on to the PRBs, we conducted an impact analysis exercise, and it came as no surprise that financial inclusion and women's economic empowerment were our two focus areas. We already play very strongly in financial inclusion. We have a digital product and platform through which we've been able to reach over 4 million enterprises, disbursing $400 million from 2015 to date. So the way we're looking to implement our targets is through our smallholder cluster farmer financing product. I know it's a mouthful, but essentially we have a product that already reaches farmers in rural areas of Nigeria and allows these farmers to increase their yield and then also increase their supply across the supply chain to manufacturers who need raw materials. So we're really focusing on this and hoping to achieve an 87% increase with this product by 2027. The second aspect of our priority area is women's economic empowerment. I know it will come as no surprise that 1 out of 3 Nigerians are financially excluded. And when you look at it's further compounded when you look at the gender gap in financial inclusion in Nigeria. And the Nigerian government has actually set a 95% financial inclusion target by 2024. So we aligned with the government. We already have a gender group in Bank of Industry, learned business support services, women-owned businesses, but we wanted to scale beyond providing the financial support. We also wanted to ensure that we're helping these businesses grow and we're giving them the support services needed for them to have good financial health. So these are our 2 areas of focus, and we have other areas yet highlighted officially, but we're working towards building on in the future.
The examples are really interesting. Okay. It's great to hear the specific examples of the smallholders, because it's often easy to talk about the high-level targets and we're going to do this and that, but then it's really about working, and as with all the examples on the stage and online, it always comes down to the individual alone and working with that individual to really drive the change that's necessary. It's not going to happen just by putting a number up there. It's going to happen in that relationship. And I think this is then a nice segue for me to turn again to the panel to ask each of you how you think, or how your bank is working towards bringing these to your daily business and really going from the commitments, the products, to implementing them, and then where do you see this developing in the future? What is your vision for the banking sector in 2030? And I think we can look at it globally, but I think especially in the context of this roundtable, where do you see it in 2030 for the African continent? And what's your bank's role in that? Yeah, do you want to? Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. For us at Wema Bank, what we do is, like I said, we identify the vulnerable groups or makes them vulnerable? What do they lack access to? And then we go back, to our drawing board. We have a sustainability governance structure with board presence and strategic leads in the bank. So we have those involved with strategy, product creation, and implementation, and all sorts. And then we break them into granular parts so what products suits what segments. For example, for women empowerment, internally we have the Wema, what we call the Wema Women Network, which is a network of the female staff of the bank, with a lot of activities and programs to help the women to thrive in their personal lives and career. For our customers, we have the female proposition, tailor-made to meet the needs of women. And so aside the regular financial services that we provide, they have access to health insurance, they have access to vocational training, skill acquisitions. They also have access to single-digit interest loans that are uncollateralized. So those are, how we inculcate all these things into our strategies to reduce, the vulnerabilities that we've identified. Also, for financial inclusion, we have other services aside from, payments, savings. We have microloans for those at the bottom of the pyramid to ensure that they have access to finance, uncollateralized loans as well. We also have health insurance for them. We have financial literacy and inclusion sessions for them. And we also anticipate the needs of these customers, before they actually ask. For example, in Nigeria, there's, like what we call energy poverty. So the economy is largely driven by the use of fossil fuel generating sets and all. So there was a time that diesel price went up, and it really became a struggle for medium and micro and small and medium enterprises to survive. And so what we did was have various seminars and training sessions for them on how they can migrate to renewable energy, bringing together solar energy service providers, to actually see how we can supply energy to these people, for them to pay instrumentally so that they can run their businesses while also transiting into running sustainable businesses. We also have the School for Small and Medium Scale Enterprises to enable them to thrive, because we really believe that SMEs are the backbone of the economy, and they are pivotal to reducing unemployment and also the sustainable growth that we desire. And so these are the ways that we inculcate these things. And so we make those products and services for them, and then we measure how many people are actually making use of those services, how many people have been able to thrive, how many people are financially empowered, from our various products and services. And so the other question is, where do we see, in 2030? Yeah, so in 2030, we want to see a continent that is better, because when you mention poverty in, global statistics, you see African countries, coming to the limelight and all that. We want to see a continent that is devoid of all that. We want to see improved statistics, people coming out of the poverty, people coming out of poverty. And you can see from all the things that I've spoken about what our bank is, doing to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Olamide. And maybe we were given the 10-minute sign about 3 minutes ago. So maybe I'll just ask the rest of our speakers to focus on the 2030 question, because I think that's really where then we see the future and trying to develop that. So, Boitumelo.
Sure. I think for me, what will really be important to show is the collective impact that the banking sector has. I think often when we speak as Standard Bank, we want to say and want to be able to evidence that the African continent is better off because Standard Bank exists. And I think similarly for all the banks represented in the room, is to say that the continent is better off because we exist. I think for 2030, one of the main goals is really about how do we really power and finance the just transition, and very much focused on just and on transition. I think by the virtue of the word transition, it means phased, it means being considered, it means taking a credible, pragmatic approach to how we support the development of the continent while very much taking in consonance the issues around climate change. So for me, that's critically important. As Standard Bank Group, we have made public commitments around this, around how we want to mobilize between 250 billion to 300 billion in the next 4 years to 2026. And I think many other banks are joining us in doing that. And critical to that will obviously be how we support our clients and take our clients along with us to help them, because as you mentioned, I mean, with the leverage that our financial institutions have, we're in a position to be able to help our clients. They are battling with this a lot more than we are, actually, being at the coalface. So for me, it would really be about that. It's about credible commitments, being pragmatic, and really, really powering and financing the energy transition.
Yeah, thank you. Powerful words. Not a simple thing to achieve, but that's why we're all in this room together. Then I'll turn to you, Omobolanle.
Okay, thank you very much. The volume quite low, but I guess the question is about what's my vision or what for the banking sector in 2030. I think that for me, it's really that we will jointly, as an industry, be delivering excellence in financial services through sustainable growth and development. And I think that for me, that encompasses the fast evolving sustainability landscape, but also that we can get to 100%. So aiming for all banks globally to adopt the PRB. And so we then can leverage the PRB to address some of the main challenges that we're faced with around, for instance, research and development. So we leverage the PRB for partnerships on research and development to identify new sustainable financing opportunities for the banks, partnerships with stakeholders such as data providers, research organizations, industry associations to access reliable and standardized sustainability data, which today is a challenge. So investments in data management systems, so the collaboration between the tech space and the banks for appropriate data that will help move things forward. I think that by 2030, I want to say that would be a norm. So there will be that partnership and engagement. Also leveraging the PRB so that by then to provide low-cost consulting services for banks implementing the PRBs, especially banks in the developing countries, partnerships as well with educational institutions, to build capacity of sustainability practitioners would be, some of the types of collaboration and leverages that I see. So in terms of the role of the African continent in this, I won't continue to speak on all the issues around financial inclusion and economic empowerment. Someone had touched on, collaboration. There's particularly regional collaboration, that can happen with bodies such as COMESA and, African Development Bank, and that rightly play vital roles in promoting sustainable development and regional integration. So But I mean, another aspect would be innovative solutions, because Africa has been at the forefront of innovating, right? Given our peculiar challenges, we still kind of, find a way to innovate around the issues we're faced with and to keep moving the needle forward. So, indeed, innovative solutions in the banking sector, driven by factors such as limited infrastructure, but also widespread use of things like mobile devices and embracing AI. I think would help to provide greater access to financial services, especially in remote and underserved areas. And I think that we can continue, as banks to drive innovation by leveraging this technology to develop sustainable finance solutions and to result in economic growth and environmental stewardship. Thank you.
Thank you, Omobolanle. And then last but not least, Tosin, final words.
Thank you. And yes, Omobolanle touched on what I was about to talk about. So looking at the global banking industry, it's projected that only 20% of heritage banks will survive by 2023 because they're going to be facing competition from financial services providers that are not traditional banks. So it's very clear that we need to innovate. We need to harness technology. We need to be able to preempt and envisage what our customers want. And we need to harness artificial intelligence to do this. How the African continent can partake in this global digital economy is for us to lean into these insights, look at the data that aggregators are collecting and use it to really propel the growth of MSMEs, women and youth, because this is the future of our economy. MSMEs are 90% of the job creators in Africa and especially in Nigeria. The second way I see us growing in Africa by 2023 is in terms of sustainable finance. While we are not yet heavily focused on climate financing, we have to get there as a continent. Bank of Industry has already received a 100 million euro line of credit from the French Development Agency, and this is to promote sustainable financing in Nigeria. It's going to go towards renewable energy projects and climate adaptation projects within the Bank of Industry portfolio. And the interesting thing about this particular fund is that it also comes with a $2.5 million grant for capacity building, because you need to upskill and close the knowledge gap in order for us to let this innovations trickle down to our clients, our customers, and our employees. So I see a very, very bright future for Africa and Nigeria as long as we're able to take brave leaps and embrace innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this has taken us on a very nice arc from how you're all implementing the principles for responsible banking, what you're doing about sustainability, seeing the issues in Africa, poverty, and the challenges that you're facing, but also the very bright future that's ahead as we innovate and leverage technology, really develop credible approaches, just transition. There's lots of work ahead, clearly. But I think we're seeing evidence of that already happening, people thinking about it. And with that, I would like to thank all of you for joining us.